What is up, people? Van from the Vanderus Gaming channel here, bringing you another video. Today's video is going to be a should I buy video on a game called Tower of Time. Now, Tower of Time has been available in early access on PC for several years now. Just recently this year, they released their final version of the game, which you can pick up on Steam for about 25 bucks. And then they're also going to be releasing it on console on June 23rd in the US and June 24th in Europe. So I thought now would be a good time to give you my opinion of this game and if it's worth purchasing on PC and on console. Now in today's video, I'm going to kind of give you my a little bit about what Tower of Time is, a little bit about the story, cover the gameplay and also the combat. And so there might be some spoilers here. So once we get into the gameplay and on, that's when the spoilers will happen. So I just wanted to get that out there right away. So what is Tower of Time? Tower of Time is an isometric RPG that is story driven, and it basically is a dungeon crawler. You are going level by level, completing each level, and then progressing to the next level all the way down a tower. And as you progress, you unlock more about the story of the game. Now, the game does have some unique aspects to it that a lot of these isometric RPGs don't have. The combat is interesting because it's not a turn-based combat, and it's also not a pause combat. It's more of a slow down time combat. So when you hit your quote-unquote pause button, it just slows down everything really, really, really slow. And so it gives you time to make your decisions and make your choices, and then you undo it, and then everyone goes back to full speed. So it's not a full pause, but it also gives you a lot more time to really think about what it is you're doing. Another thing is the music and the art style and how they do it is very interesting. And also they do kind of a similar thing that Darkest Dungeon does with opening different buildings using blueprints, etc., which we'll get into in a little bit. So that's kind of what Tower of Time is. So if you like an isometric RPG, if you like a very story-driven RPG, this will probably be a game that you will enjoy. So now let's kind of talk a little bit about the story. The story is basically this weird tower landed in this area. No one knows where it came from, but all of a sudden people start getting all these magic powers. And you as a boy are out looking for something, and you come across this tower, and it calls to you, and it says, you know, you'll come back sometime. And when you get older, there's things going on in this world, and you think that the answers to solving all the problems are in this tower. And at this point, you are a leader in an army, and you request to take some of your people and go and explore this tower, and because it's in your homeland. And so he gives you the ability to do that, and you bring two of your top companions. So if you look at the three people on the picture, you are the dude in the robes. You bring your trusty sidekick on the left in his sword and shield, pretty much your warrior tank character. And then you also bring your other lieutenant, which is your archer ranger character, which is the girl sitting on the edge there with the bluish hair. So that is the story. And when you come back to the tower, you don't really do anything. You just kind of sit there, and then your companions will then start going through the tower and figuring out what is happening. Now, it is pretty unique because as you progress through the tower, you find different story parts that it will actually go to a cutscene and tell you more about the overall story. And the way that the story is told and the art style, it's really quite beautiful and engaging. So I really did enjoy it. So now, with that said, let's get into the gameplay, and this is where there's going to be some spoilers, so just keep that in mind. So when you first start the game, you're going to start a new game. And when you start a new game, you have to play it in RPG mode, which is the default mode. And then once you do and you get to the first boss and unlock it, defeat the final boss on the first floor, then you can unlock this RPG light mode, or you could also unlock permadeath mode. And each one of these modes have different difficulties. And I would say just in playing it, when you first start the game, like a lot of RPGs, you're very weak in the beginning, but then as you progress, you get very strong. And I was playing it on normal, and pretty much by the second and third floor, I was getting to where everything was pretty much face roll. There was maybe a little bit of an issue on floor 4 just because I had to have specific weapons of a specific element. But other than that, the game got very easy. So picking hard mode, if you're used to these types of games, might be something you want to do to keep it more engaging. So that's pretty much what happens. Now we're going to get into one of the games that I am currently playing, and we're going to resume. And I'm going to show you first kind of this whole city thing. So once you start playing through the game, you're in the tower, you can always return to the city. And then once you return to the city, this is where you level up your characters and do different things to your weapons and armor. So I'm going to kind of cover how this works. So whenever you're done here, you can always click on the tower and it will put you back exactly where you were before. And so once you do that, you can go back to the tower. But here's where you have different buildings, and each building needs a blueprint to unlock. And this is how you manage some of your characters. So these are our caster classes, and the only way I can keep leveling them up higher and higher is basically by getting blueprints and unlocking better versions of the mage tower. And the same applies to this hall right here for these particular characters. And then you also have the armory over here for these particular characters. And so it's very much so Darkest Dungeon, where you have blueprints to unlock these things. Then on top of that, you have a library, and this is pretty cool because it keeps a list of all the different levels and the different types of creatures you fought, and gives you kind of an idea about what their strengths and weaknesses are. It also gives you what the story is as you progress, and the cinematics to the story, which are really cool. And then this is also where you would track your quests and all that. You can always see this by hitting your map and all that when you're in the game, but you can also do it here at the library. Now, the keep is where basically you do all of your management of your characters, and that's how you do their stat points. You manage their inventory, their skill trees, and then you can also see what their alignment is and how they're progressing, which is pretty interesting in the game. In addition to that, you have the barracks, and this is where you actually will level up each character. The level that the character can get to is solely dependent on what level of these different Mage Tower and the Artificer Hall and the Armory that you have unlocked. And this is where you train, and training, it'll tell you if you don't have the blueprint, and then it'll tell you what it costs and kind of what they gain as they level up. And so, as I said, you can basically have 4 characters in your party at one time, and you can see right now I have 6 of the 7 unlocked on this current version of the game. Now, in addition to that, you have this wonderful blacksmith here, and here is where you can actually create new weapons and different qualities and different powers, and these are done by using these crystals, and these crystals are gained throughout the game by defeating bosses, picking them up, and also by disenchanting gear. If you disenchant gear that is green and blue and purple, you will get back these gems for doing that. Enchantments are also in the game, where specific items have an enchantment slot, which is this little circle here, and it can unlock cool different enchantments for the things. You have a transmute button. This is basically converting these stones. And then at the same time, you have an item forge button, where each one of these has these 3 little squares under it. And if you were to drop it over here, you can upgrade different stats on the gear in those squares. So that is pretty much the blacksmith. We already talked about the inventory, the craft, the enchant, and the item forge. And this is the dismantling I was talking about. I said disenchanting, I believe. But this is how you dismantle an item. You click on it, and you'll see them at 60 if I were to destroy this. Then I go to 63. So that's pretty much the area here where you build all your characters and all of that. And when you go into here, you have different skills that you unlock through the game, and you have different trees that you can do for each skill. You can only hold 4 skills on your bar at a time, and so you can easily click and choose which skill you want. And then also, your character has might and speed, mastery, and life, and depending on these, it affects all of these statistics over here. Now, this is a very brief overview. I don't want to dive into this game too much. If you want to know more about it, leave it in the comments below, and I might make an actual new player's guide on this game to help out new players in the future. So, once you go back into the tower, you will see that each level has been completed, and you can choose to re-enter those levels, but right now I'm at 66% on the 5th floor. And then in addition to the tower levels, you have these challenges that you can do, and each challenge that you can do will actually unlock different rewards in addition to going through. So it's kind of like little events that you can do and unlock special things that you maybe can't get in the game, maybe get some achievements, etc., etc. And so when you go back to the tower and you click on here, enter, you get to choose which of the characters you want to bring along with you. So here's my battle party. I can easily say, no, I want him. I want to get rid of her and I want him. I want to get rid of him and I want her. And then I say continue. And basically, once you're in the game here, you have the library. This is similar to the library you had before. You have your map, which kind of shows you everything on the map. It also tells you your progress. So this game is very linear in the fact that as you progress through the game, you have the different levels and what you have completed on each of the different levels. And then you have your little map legend down here. This is your character screen, similar to what we showed you in the previous menu, and this is how you return back to the city. Now, when you move your character around, it's basically a click to target characters. So every time you click, you're moving it around. And that's how your character moves. You can click and hold down and just move the mouse, and that also moves you. All of your characters follow you around, and as you find stuff in the game, you can upgrade the different characters, but then when it comes to combat, you can only really have the 4 characters you chose in the beginning. So this is what the game kind of looks like. This is kind of how the map works. So now let's kind of show you what combat looks like. So we're going to do a challenge, and we're going to do a really easy challenge. Training dummy. No, let's do the risen small group right here and say enter. So if we hit continue. So it's going to bring our battle party here, and this is what's unique about the combat. As I said earlier, when you start combat, it puts you into a different area, and you get to choose to start the battle. Now, there's different versions of the combat. Some are you start the battle, and some of your characters are actually encased in a prison, and you have to break them out in order to use them. Some are there are portals throughout the map that you actually have to destroy the portals, and then as you're destroying the portals, the ones that are left open are just filling up the map with more creatures. And then there's this basic kill the enemy, and then once the enemy is dead, it's game over. So right here you can see enemies defeated, and I can say start battle. Now, like other isometric RPGs, you can highlight everybody, etc., and then you can just click on them. Now, each character you can select individually, and you can put different abilities. So you can do that. You got like traps and stuff in the game. And as I kill these different characters, you will see that my progress continues to go up and up. Now, I'm way overpowered for this. I mean, I don't even have to cast probably any abilities here. I can just do what I'm doing, and this would pretty much be over in no matter what. Now, when you're doing this, you can choose to click all these characters to what you want them to do in combat. And if you say move and attack, then they will actually, if you're not controlling them, they will move on their own. If you say stand ground, you have to move them. So that's basically the big difference there, is do you want these companions to move without your control, or do you want to move them for you? You will see this big red circle that's around. Those are basically what you can attack depending on the different skills you select. So if I were to select this skill, you can see I only have this circle of where I can go, and so I'll put that there. And basically, this is how the combat goes. Now, this is a very easy one where I'm not really doing anything, but you can see how it comes from different gates, and if you're on a harder map, this could get very difficult because these things are coming from all different angles. And in addition to that, you'll see they'll put little red circles on the ground that you have to move out of. You'll see this guy has this yellow circle around him, which he's pulsating damage. And so each map has its own challenges. Once you beat the map, it will kind of tell you the results of how you did. It even gives you your pets. These were the pets I summoned. And it tells you kind of how you're doing. And then at the end, you get your battle results and you get your items that you get for winning that particular battle. And so some battles, if you lose, you have to redo them over again. It'll say retry, or it'll send you back to your last save point. And so a lot of games like this, you want to make sure you're saving consistently, because the last thing you want to do is run into a battle that you weren't prepared for, and you can't beat it no matter how many tries, and then you have to start all over at your save point. So that is basically how the combat and the gameplay works. So now I want to kind of talk a little bit about my opinion of the game, the pros, the cons, and what I think about the game from here. So at the end of the day, what is my opinion of Tower of Time? And this is basically how I view the game. When you first start the game is very engaging. The opening trailer, before you even create a character, really brings you into the game and is very well done. The story is not a bad story at all. The combat, when you first start, is very interesting because you only have 2 characters like you can see on the screen, and it's very difficult because you don't have a lot of skills, you don't have a lot of gear. And that's when the game was fun, because you had to do a little bit of kiting, you had to move stuff around. But as the game progresses, unfortunately, you lose the excitement. And when I play games, I need that hook to keep bringing me back. And a lot of games I play, I don't even want to, I want to go home and play. I want to stop what I'm doing. I just want to go home and play the game because I'm excited for, okay, well, I want to get this gear, or I want to, unlock these skills, or I want to see what's on this next map. And Tower of Time didn't do that for me. The more I played the game, the less I enjoyed myself. The easier it became. The levels were just, let me just beat through this level and check the boxes. The combat was not engaging. There was no boss fights. Let me phrase that. There were only a couple boss fights where I actually had to think and really manage my resources and really manage what was going on. But for the most part, once you start getting gear and you understand it and you start putting in chance and you start forging it, your characters become pretty strong where even upgrading gear is not necessary. And so that's really where I felt the game is lacking, is it felt like they put a lot of work in the first couple levels, but as the game went on, they just did not hold my interest. So at the end of the day, for $25, for the amount of time I played the game and the amount of enjoyment I got, I would recommend this game to somebody else to try it. It's not for everybody, for sure. This is not a game that everybody's going to enjoy. And if you're like me, you may get bored with it early and stop playing. But for $25, it's probably worth a shot. So this is Van from the Vaniverse Gaming channel. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave your comments below about what you think about this game and just this type of video. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers and peace out.